So I introduced to you today the Materials Data Factory. It's a focused effort to build the largest catalog of materials that are actually made and not just computer modeled, so we can use the data and fuel it to the AI discovery engine and make breakthroughs in tech. My name is Jehad, and for the last 10 years, I've been bringing materials to life from computer models to lab bench, with samples as small as a pinch of salt, all the way up to materials that can power fridge-sized devices in pilot plants. And today, I decided to partner with robots to produce materials at the scale of AI. Materials are important. Things like clay, copper, and steel are the reason why civilizations have risen and fallen. Materials like silicon enable chips for computers, lithium for rechargeable batteries, and we think that the next generation of materials are going to be very crucial for our existence and well-being. And so the next generation of materials will power the next wave of tech that we need to produce our chemicals, our fuels, and to make our infrastructure. And for example, we'll focus on carbon capture because it matters, it is hard to solve, and I will use it as an example because it's a perfect test bed to connect material performance to system performance. And so I'll explain. Materials like metal organic frameworks, MOFs, could be swapped into current carbon capture unit and double the efficiency. They can provide an engineering path, a shot at a gigaton carbon removal, and they can be engineered in so many different ways to work in the different conditions. I'll tell you a little bit about MOFs and then switch back to talk about the Materials Data Factory and how our solution is going to help. MOFs are tiny sponges that have massive surface areas. Something the size of a sugar cube can have a surface area of a football field. And because of their cage-like structure, they can capture greenhouse gases like CO2. But carbon capture isn't a one-size-fits-all problem. Carbon capture comes with so many different challenges that would require capturing CO2 from different concentrations of streams, gas compositions, geolocations, and all of those requires innovation in the material that we design and make. But there is no reason that would make us not believe that the ideal material would exist. So now let me explain how do we design and make better materials in general. For so many years, we've relied on trial and error, which is slow, expensive, and manual. And then we increased the rate of trial and error, basically putting trial and error on steroids, to increase the rate and the throughput of doing experiments. But nothing would be as cheap and as fast as going completely digital. And by that, I mean we use computer simulations to model the material and start with a flood of possibilities, which will eventually trickle down as a few examples for experiments. And this is the way that we make the process cheaper and faster. But the flood will start from a sea of possibilities. And so AI has helped us in the last few years to speed up that process of generating new materials or hypothetical materials for testing. And this is an example where DeepMind in the Genome Project were able to 10x the number of materials that we had in our repository just 2 years ago. So this is a clear indication and demonstration of how AI can help with the generation of hypothetical materials. The problem that our capability to make these samples or make the materials in the lab has not kept up. And we are limited to the number of things that we can validate from these models, and even worse, the knowledge is really hard to use. The knowledge that we currently have access to is fragmented, poorly reproducible due to different lab practices. And this is why the knowledge is buried in literature or locked in industrial labs. Today's models, they don't come with an instruction or a recipe. They give you the ingredients, but they don't tell you the step-by-step method to make these materials. We need them to be consistent. We need the information and data to be consistent, reproducible. But most importantly, if we don't know and learn from how we failed, how would we would be able to predict new process and path to make new materials? And that knowledge is not there. It's not in the literature. We don't have it. So let me put all of this together. I want you to picture this example. You go to ChatGPT, you ask it to bake the most delicious cake. We'll do a great job, look at this, will do a great job painting how it would look like, how it may taste like. But what it will struggle with without the right data is to tell you how to make it. Because you don't have the cooking recipe book, or if you haven't trained it on the cooking recipe book, it would not learn how to do it. And materials are like that, but they're much, much harder than mixing the batter and beating eggs and baking in an oven. They require meticulous control and rigorous control over temperature, pressure, how you mix things at the atomic scale, how you mix them in environments that do not have contaminations, trace amounts of oxygen, and all of that. It's what makes carbon either a graphite or a diamond. So how can we teach AI and train it to tell us the step-by-step recipe that would tell us how to make materials faster? Well, we provide it with a cooking recipe book, but we do that for materials. And our goal in this project is to provide AI with a data set of 100,000 examples. I'll explain later why. Second goal is to gradually and simultaneously reduce the cost of producing these data sets, because they're expensive today, to something that can be funded within a short period of time. And I'll talk about the numbers. They're not arbitrary, I promise. I've chosen them based on experiments and proof of concept studies. So why 100,000? Because we've seen it working in the past. We've seen it working for computer vision. We've seen it working for protein folding, and which required at least a threshold of 100,000 samples to be able to solve these challenges. So I asked, can we do the same thing for material science? And in the last 2 years, I've spent working at Meta on this project of building a data set of experimental materials. We've done that through automated workflows, chemistry workflows, and digitized workflows that could be extended beyond just metal alloys, which we've used in this proof of concept. It can be used for MOFs, it could be used for polymers, it can be used for any other type of material. And the first thing that we've seen, that 1,000 was not enough. So when we extrapolated our AI model, it told us that we need 100,000 at least, which is not very surprising, but we wanted to show that we could make some progress towards that goal. So that's the first thing. Second thing, when we started the project, it would have costed us a fortune, and until the next ice age, to produce that data set. This is because the traditional methods are so slow, as I explained. But with the proof of concept, we were able to bring the cost down and increase the throughput in a significant way to build a 1,000-point data set. But to build 100,000, there is still more work that have to be done. So our goal in this project is to find a way to improve and scale up the labs so we can make that goal feasible within a smaller funding amount and timelines that work with technology. So we decided to build a focused research organization that would scale up the labs, generate the data, and most importantly, make it open so people can train better AI models on this data and advance the frontier of the field. How do we do it? In Thrust 1, we will take the proof of concept labs, we'll put them under one roof because they were decentralized, we'll improve the integration of equipment, but we also will include an in-loop monitoring to do a quality check on the fly so we can optimize and close the loop, optimize faster, cut the number of steps, and reduce the waste through less human intervention, and what's so-called today a self-driving lab. We will combine this with a miniaturized devices to do the synthesis in a small footprint, reducing the amount of material we use, and hence increase the throughput and the number of experiments that we can run in parallel. Now, more specifically, we think that our strategy of bringing equipment all together in a single place, improving automation, is the low-hanging fruit, and through that, we can improve the throughput by 10 times at half of the cost. With the introduction of self-driving labs and miniaturized devices, we think that we can even bring the cost down by 20 times and improve the throughput by 100 times. Again, these are not arbitrary numbers, and the reason that I'm confident that we can do it, especially the last two goals, is that because my co-founder, Alana Sparaguzic, is a pioneer in the self-driving lab concept, and we've shown that the core components that build these self-driving labs can work individually. What we need to do now is assemble these components, put them together, and we scale up what we know that already works. And that's something that hasn't been done. And what we want to do is put this self-driving labs to action today so that we can produce the data that matters to us. And thrust 2 is all about generating data. But thrust 3, we will build a prize concept working with the XPRIZE. For those who don't know what the XPRIZE is the Olympics of Innovation. They bring people from all over the globe to solve grand challenges. Our grand challenge will be, provided a synthesis recipe, can people develop AI models that can give you the structure, or vice versa? Given a structure, can you tell me the step-by-step recipe to make that material? So now going back to MOFs. MOFs face a challenge in synthesis, especially in scaling up MOFs for industrial application. So we think with the synthesis models that we have, we can provide processes that are simpler, safer, and cheaper to make the synthesis of MOFs scalable for industry. And so our theory of change is the materials data factory will make the generation of experimental real-world data sets cheaper, affordable, and faster. So the community would have this data, ground truth data, to develop better AI models. And on top of that, they will have access to best practices of how experimental data can be documented and generated. And that eventually will lead to introduce better materials and new technology much faster. In our timeline, we need $50 million to hit our first milestone, which is generate 10,000 data points and reduce the cost by 50%. We've already received partial funding for the XPRIZE challenge, so a lot of the hyperscalers in the AI community are interested in this problem and funding the effort, seeding the effort. In the second stage, with $25 million additional, we want to hit our major milestones, which is building a 100,000 data set and reducing the cost so we can produce new ones for new challenges in under 6 months and $1 million. So now with that, I believe that the new breakthroughs in energy, climate, health will depend on one thing: the right material at the right time. And what we're doing, we're giving AI what is missing today: the real world data. So it can make that happen, not just for one application, but for every challenge that matters to us.